Welcome to Make a Path Presents. I'm Ronnie Hayes, and today, let's talk TV Dwight versus Comic Dwight, Season 7. Alright guys, this is a discussion I want to get started now because we're going to have a big break to do it. However, in the big break, I have a lot of videos I'm trying to plan out because some of them take quite a while. There's a lot of clips, and I'm adding lists, and I got to go back and rewatch stuff and read stuff, so I got a lot on my plate. But I do want to get this started because I think this is very interesting, and there's going to be a hint of it, I think, in Season 6 because we still have a few episodes left. But I think a lot of this is going to play out in Season 7. But since Dwight has to come back before the end of Season 6, he has to, I want to get this discussion going. Now, the idea is the comic Dwight versus TV Dwight. Now, in comic Dwight, Dwight shows up. Comic spoilers, minor ones, but still spoilers nonetheless. Here's your warning, 3, 2, 1. Comic Dwight shows up and he's a giant asshole. Now, after he's an asshole, we start learning that, he has some baggage and he's pretty pissed or not too friendly with Negan, but he is a massive asshole. Like I said before, he tried to kill Carl. He tried to beat him to death. Negan had to stop him. Anyway, so Comic Dwight shows up on the scene, kills Abraham. Let's not forget. A lot of fans forget that. He kills Abraham, almost beats Carl to death. Huge piece of shit. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, he's like, hey Rick, let's make a deal. And Rick is like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. So again, the video I made before with Dwight and Daryl, I think that is a solid connection for Season 7 and for the story. But TV Dwight is a little different now. We didn't have someone who's straight dick. We saw their backstory. We understood their pain, but yet he was a straight dick. And then we understood the Dwight we know now after all that. The TV show, they showed us a Dwight that's more like a wounded animal, so to speak. He hasn't killed anybody yet because he's afraid there's no coming back from that. And that's literally what he said when Daryl asked him. So we got a very different Dwight post-burn face on the TV show. Now there's two ways they can go with this. My previous speculation that the guy Daryl blew up, the talking head savior, he was an underboss, maybe kinda, and he went to the hilltop, and he was the one who killed the 16-year-old kid at the hilltop. He was the one because he said the same thing. We have to teach you right off the bat. He said it with Daryl, and he said it. Jesus said he said it at the hilltop, and Jesus doesn't lie. So we know the talking head was the lead or an underboss down from Negan. So if Daryl blows him up, this is the same time that Negan's burning Dwight and whatever. Now this is where the story goes two different ways. Either he can have Dwight as like a rabid dog on a leash type deal, or have Dwight as, like a slave mercenary. You know what I'm saying? Someone who just he's a beat dog pretty much, but still deadly, obviously, because he's out, he's killing, he's fighting, he's doing this. But two different Dwights. You can either have the Dwight show up like the comic where he's like, hey, sorry about your friend, but you fucker started it. Or you can have the Dwight who's just like, I don't give a shit about anything anymore. Just, I go out, I kill, I do my job, come home, eat, my life is over. You get what I don't know, it's kind of hard to put into words, but I'm basically saying right now we can either have the TV Dwight be more like the comic Dwight, which would kind of conflict with the Dwight we got already in episode 6 that we saw with Daryl. Or we can have a TV Dwight that's going to be a remix of sorts. Now they got to be careful when they remix it for Season 7 though, because in the comic it worked. The alliance between Dwight and Rick and them worked so well because Dwight was Negan's, right-hand man. He was his underboss. That is why I believe the connection between the underboss, Daryl blowing him up, and Dwight and Negan tormenting him and forcing him into that underboss position, that's why I think that's crucial to the story. It has to be, because it doesn't make sense to have Dwight as a broken man, have him as a slave mercenary, so to speak. It would make more sense to do that. And the biggest problem they have to avoid with the story is keeping Dwight the underboss. If you have him too broken, he can't lead. You know, he can't lead anybody if he's just a crushed shell of the man he once was. So he must be a good balance between the comic Dwight being a total asshole and this Dwight we saw on TV who had some humanity left in him. And that makes even more sense for when they go on in season 7 and 8 with this character's transformation. Because we saw him and he was a decent man. Negan gets a hold of him, burns his face, breaks his soul, and then we see him and he's kind of like a monster, a slave mercenary under the rule of Negan's dictatorship, whatever. And then he's like, I see strength in these survivors. We have the Daryl aspect. They could work together. And he's like, you know what? Screw this, Rick. I'll work with you. I'll help you. We're going to take Negan out. Because he still has that humanity, they established in season 6, episode 6. 6, right? See how that plays out? Man, that's a little complicated because I thought about that and I said I'm recording it. So, yeah, I hope you understood that. If you didn't, doesn't matter because we're going to be discussing this soon. But I want to get the seeds out there because Dwight needs to make a return in season 6 in some capacity. At least one episode, possibly 2. He's gotta. So, I'm very excited for his return. Put your thoughts and opinions down in that comment box about Dwight on the TV show versus Dwight in the comics. If you don't read the comics, you know, you can still base your opinion off of what they've done with Dwight on season 6 because, let me just tell you, he has to come back as a hardened asshole, you know, underboss. You get what I'm saying? So how would they do that, keeping it real with the character they already established with Daryl? Put all your thoughts and opinions down in that comment box. I'm done talking. It's your turn. Subscribe now.